How's it going, everyone? My name is DrapPep. Welcome back to another installment of this series. When I was a kid, I loved watching Scooby-Doo. That was one of my favorite cartoons to watch, honestly. And to this day, actually, I still love watching Scooby-Doo. Despite the fact that every mystery was pretty simple to solve, like every time they would show, oh, this mansion that's been abandoned for 50 years is being haunted by a spooky ghost. And it's usually like the first guy they meet, the one that's pretty much telling them the lore. And it's like, oh, I remember back in the day when this mansion was owned by the whoever family. And it's usually that guy, right? Usually it's like, oh, I'm pretty sure the one spreading the rumors is the one after the family fortune. That's how the rumor got started, was by the criminal who's spreading them. But the thing is every mystery, Scooby and Shaggy keep thinking the monster's real. Despite one very important detail that Shaggy keeps overlooking. You see, whenever they go to these houses, right, you've got Fred, Daphne, and Velma, and they're just like, come on, gang, let's split up. And then you've got Shaggy, who's just like, like joinks, man, I'm going to go eat something, right? He's going into the kitchen. Shaggy, the building's been condemned for the last 50 years. Gone empty, right? Locked down. No one's lived here for 50 years. And your first thought was, I'm going to eat the 50-year-old expired food from the cabinets. What? Even if it was just in cans, still, what? You're gonna eat that? And the most shocking part is there's food in there. Not to mention working electricity. I don't know if you've ever seen abandoned buildings. There's not a whole lot of electricity going through those buildings. A lot of times the circuit breakers are most definitely turned off to conserve power, so that there's no electrical fires. That's just how that works. The fact that Shaggy goes into the kitchen, opens the refrigerator, first of all, the fact that there's electricity is wild. Second of all, the fact that there's a full refrigerator full of food, freshly bought food, should tell Shaggy whoever is here is human. Because there's no ghost that's haunting the place and is just like, oh man, I sure miss having people around. I think I'm going to go down to the market and get some food to pretend there's someone here. No. Clearly, that food is for the person who's looking for the family fortune. But yet, every time Shaggy and Scooby, they see that costume, they forget the fact that they just ate fresh food from the kitchen and are just now running for their lives. Granted, I'd probably run too. Like, not because, oh, I think this is a real life ghost. No, there's a dude in a costume holding a machete. Like, have we not seen Halloween, right? Halloween, that's a dude in a costume holding a butcher's knife. Friday the 13th, that's a dude, well, alright, well, the first one, it's his mom. But later versions of it, it is the guy who's wearing the ski mask. Except for that one where it's the father who's trying to redeem the fact that his son was killed off in a facility. And the other times when it was, a copycat killer or possibly Jason Voorhees after he'd been resurrected. Which, can we take a second to think about that for just a second? There was a shovel pierced into Jason Voorhees' chest because they wanted to make sure he died. He was dead. They want to make sure of it. Then he got struck by lightning, and it brought him back. Of course, there's a lot of evidence to show that he was actually a Deadite from the Evil Dead series. There's also been a comic book where Freddy becomes the general of the Deadites with the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. And there's even an Easter egg in one of the Friday the 13th movies where the Necronomicon shows up on a table. And at first it was just an Easter egg, but then they later confirmed that Jason Voorhees is in fact a Deadite, which explains why he was able to go from one body to another. Because there was a scene where he did die, and the mortician who was eating bits and pieces of his, noggin, uh, turned into the next Jason Voorhees, which is a very Deadite thing to do. My question is, why is Jason limiting himself to one body? Aren't Deadites capable of jumping body to body whenever they feel like it? They can talk too. I don't know why Jason is mute. Unless that is the soul of Jason Voorhees and he just doesn't know he's a Deadite, which is interesting. My point is, though, is every time, Scream, Friday the 13th, Halloween, right? I Know What You Did Last Summer. Whenever there's a person wearing a costume with a weapon, it's good enough. That's good enough. You don't need to be a monster, right? You don't need to be some ghost, some wolf man, some scuba diving ghost, which was an episode, a Martian, which was another one, right? You don't need to be any of these things. You just have to be some dude in a costume with a knife. Sold, good enough. Yeah. I would love to see an episode of like Scooby-Doo. They'll never do this, but imagine an episode of Scooby-Doo where it's Michael Myers from Halloween. And like Fred is trying his best to keep this dude locked down in one of his traps, but he just keeps breaking free. And he's just like, well, Gaina, let's leave. This man is clearly a serial killer. I don't think they've actually dealt with a serial killer in Scooby-Doo. Maybe in one of the movies, and I just haven't seen it, because there's been a few movies where the monsters are real. There's even a comic book series where it's the end of the world and it's like a dystopia. That was good. I loved that series. But I don't think in the main show. Okay, what's new Scooby-Doo? I haven't seen a whole lot of. I'm referring to the originals, by the way. I've seen a lot of the new stuff, and I still love it regardless. I haven't seen Velma. I've heard mixed reviews about Velma, mostly bad, but I'm a big enough Scooby-Doo fan where I really do want to watch Velma. But my point is that outside of Velma, the most of what I've seen, they haven't really dealt with a serial killer before, and I'm super curious to see what that would be like. Now, of course, there's that episode when Batman and like I think the Joker was in the episode, and I guess that's close enough to a serial killer because Joker, is in fact one of them. Which is also wild that Joker has never received the death penalty. It's like, well, you did massacre so many people, Mr. Joker, but you're crazy, so we're just gonna let that slide and not worry about so many lives you've altered through your crimes. And then Batman is just like, justice. Yes, justice. I knew it would come out like this. That's why I arrested him. Now he's going to get the help he needs. And then we'll execute him. Once he's feeling all nice and better. They didn't. There isn't a comic where he does get cured. And he goes back to being normal. And he sues Batman for all of the harm he Batman did. And then later on I found out that it was Harley Quinn that cured Joker. And that guy slowly but surely goes back to being Joker again because, the drugs weren't working for long term, just enough for him to be normal. And that has nothing to do with Scooby-Doo. That was just a random Batman fact that I wanted to throw out there. Whenever Batman is brought into any conversation for me, congratulations, you're about to listen to many, many Batman facts. That's... What's great about this series being only like 10 to 12 minutes long is you don't have to sit through too much more of this. Maybe some of you like hearing Batman facts, but eventually my friends can vouch it gets old. Not to me, of course. I can go on for hours about Batman. Are you kidding me? I love Batman. But I'd say Batman is most likely one of my most favorite superheroes. It's really hard to call Batman a superhero without superpowers, even though his feats are pretty superpowery. He doesn't really actually have any superpowers. He's more of a caped crusader, a vigilante. Um, my actual favorite heroes or anti-villains, anti-heroes, I I don't know what to call them. The Darkness with Jackie Estacado as the the person with the darkness inside of him. Little shadowy serpents, and he like summons minions from the shadows. It's a really cool series from I think it's called Top Cow. I think that's the name of the company, the comic book company. It's been a while since I've read it. All right. Outside of the darkness, I also am a huge fan of Spawn, and I also am a huge fan of uh I would say Spider-Man, but to be fair, I do have more Spider-Man video games than any other superhero video games that exist out there. I do have the first two Darkness video games, but there needs to be a Spawn video game. Come on. Why are they not bringing that out? Also, if you didn't know, Spawn is in one of the Invincible comic books during the time when I all of a sudden forgot his name. Mark? Is that it? Mark went to like the multiverse and gathered a bunch of heroes. The Darkness and I think Witchblade were two of the heroes that came. And I think the fact that they couldn't get Spawn into the animated series of Invincible is kind of a letdown, because I think that would have been really cool to see my favorite superhero show up. Ugh, that'd been awesome. But that's gonna be it for this episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in.